Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today I find myself in Darien, Connecticut at the Goodwives Shopping Plaza for a Cars and Coffee. This is a very special event because this is the site where the actual original, well, not the original, I'll explain in a minute, but the Cannonball Run took off from in 1979 from the Lock, Stock, and Barrel restaurant, which was right here at the Goodwives Shopping Center. Now, I've filmed here a number of times at this EV Go station where it hasn't been working. Today, it looks like it's working, and then look what we have here, a police interceptor with an arm hanging out of it. So you know this is not gonna be a normal day when you find a police interceptor with a hand falling out of the back of it. So let's get into it, folks. Let's explore this car show, and I'll tell you a little bit about the history of the Cannonball Run, of which my son Kyle has actually taken part in 3 different times. So let's get into it. All right, so here we are, the Goodwives Shopping Plaza. We've got the car show over here. But what I want to do today in filming this video is just tell you a little bit about the history of this event, this Cannonball Run. Brock Yates, who was the Car and Driver magazine editor, in 1971, he actually did the first Cannonball Run, or what became a famous Cannonball Run. But the real first Cannonball Run actually took place in 1915, and it was run in a Stutz Bearcat with a 50-mile-per-hour average by Irwin Baker. And so this Cannonball Run race is actually called the Sea to Shining Sea Cannonball Run, the Baker Run, or Cannonball Baker Run, I think, something like that, named after this Irwin Baker. And it took him 271 hours and 15 minutes to run that race, which was pretty insane. So I think as I describe some of the efforts since then, what I'll do is I'll walk up and down and show you some of the cars here. This is a small car show. When you compare it to Caffeine and Carburetors up in New Canaan, Connecticut, it's much smaller. But look, this part of Connecticut's got some great car enthusiasts, some amazing cars, and we'll definitely take you through them. But what was interesting was Brock Yates, his buddy Hal Needham, was a movie maker, and I guess Brock's friend owned the Lock, Stock, and Barrel restaurant here. And so what they did was, back in 1979, they started the race behind this shopping plaza, and then they came out, and there's a lot of really interesting history about that. But in 1971, when Brock Yates did the first run, he did it from the Red Ball Garage in New York City, and so what ended up happening was the run, it took place the next year, and then after that, it went, basically they canceled it because of the gas crisis. And then they actually ran it again, I think in 1975. So the 4th running of the Cannonball Run, that was the big one. That's the one that really got organized and started here in Darien, Connecticut. And what was interesting about that is a lot of people had different sort of ideas about how they would disguise their vehicles to go across the country. As a matter of fact, Brock Yates and Hal Needham, they decided to take an old, like a van, an ambulance, and they had a real doctor and his wife, and she pretended to be the patient in the back of the car, in the back of the ambulance. And a lot of these things that actually happened back in 1979 became the spirit for the movie, The Cannonball Run, starring Burt Reynolds and a whole bunch of characters back in 1981, that Hal Needham, who actually rode in the ambulance with Brock Yates back then, Hal Needham, he actually directed that movie, which was a pretty amazing thing that happened. So a lot of history in terms of the Cannonball Run. And now today we've got this cars and coffee. So since 1915, when Irwin Baker ran the first Cannonball Run, there's been many, many attempts since then. And for example, in 1964, the run was completed by Stan Rosenthal and Skip Jane in a Sunbeam, Imperial 1964 Sunbeam. And then they completed that run in 48 hours, way down from the 200 and some odd hours of the other one. Oh, look at this GTO over here, beautiful. And then it was in 1971 when Brock Yates, Steve Smith, and Jim Williams in a 1971 Dodge Custom Sportsman, and they knocked about 8 hours off that timing, and really did it in 40 hours and 51 minutes, which was pretty good. Then in, I guess it was in 1971, Dan Gurney and Brock Yates, they ran a Ferrari Red Ball from the Red Ball to Portofino in 35 hours and 54 minutes. And so some people may know the name Dan Gurney from, from the racing tradition. And then there were a whole bunch of efforts since then. Well, 1971 they ran it, 1975 they ran it. Then in 79, that's when the first Cannonball race from the Goodwives right here in Darien, Connecticut, that's when the first one was really run here. And that race was won in a 1978 Jaguar XJS, 32 hours and 51 minutes. And that was by Dave Heinz and Dave Yarborough in a 78 Jaguar XJS. And then in 1983, I guess after the movie came out, a Ferrari 308, they only knocked off about 50 minutes, 32 hours and 7 minutes on that race. And then Alex Roy in 2006 reinvigorated the race. Alex Roy is really all over this Cannonball run that has taken place over the years. And he came into the scene and won it in, let's see what year that was. Oh, 2006. So there was a hiatus from 1983 to 2006 when this whole thing was taking place. And Alex Roy and Dave Mayer won that in 31 hours and 4 minutes in a 2000 BMW M5, and then a whole number of different attempts. Back in 2013, Ed Bullion, Dave Black, and Dan Huang in a 2004 Mercedes-Benz CL55 AMG. They actually won the race. And then 2019, this is where things start getting crazy here, because in 2013, Ed Bullion and his team did it in 28 hours and 50 minutes. And then 6 years later in 2019, you had Arnie Toman, Doug Tabbutt, and Berkeley Chadwick in a 2015 Mercedes-Benz E63 AMG. They ran in 28:50, which was, now you're starting to get crazy. And then in 2020, a 2019 Audi A8 ran the race in 26:38. Now, if you think about it, that's crazy speeds. I mean, this is not an easy thing to do. First of all, highly illegal. Look at this Jeep over here. Love this thing. And but then, just when you think that could never be broken, Arnie Toman, Doug Tabbutt, and Dunadel Dariush, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name there, sir, in a 2016 Audi S6, they crossed the country in 25 minutes and 39 seconds with an average speed of 110 miles an hour. And they used 31 minutes stop to fill up with gas. They used 65 US gallons of gas. Pretty insane. And I can't even imagine how insane that run must have been. So when you think about it, if you're running so fast, I mean, it becomes crazy. Now, there is not one electric vehicle here today, and I know a lot of you who watch my channel are big EV fans, but you gotta realize that I love anything with four wheels, three pedals. You know, it doesn't matter to me. But the electric vehicle record is one that I find extremely intriguing because it talks a lot about the infrastructure. It says a lot about the infrastructure. Look at this little Mini over here, so cute. Interesting, it's not a right-hand drive. Beautiful car though, look at that little thing. I don't know if I'd fit in there, but the electric vehicle record to me is an interesting one because it talks about a lot about the state of the infrastructure in this country in terms of where things are at for being able to get across the country quickly. Here's a Morgan, look at this, beautiful, just gorgeous. And the idea is that in 1968 there were two teams, one from Caltech and one from MIT, where they had a couple of different vehicles. I think it was an old VW microbus that was converted, and the team from MIT raced from Cambridge, Mass to Pasadena, while the Caltech team raced the opposite direction. But a network of 54 chargers were set up along a 3,311 mile route, and they were spaced anywhere between 21 and 95 miles apart. And you know, that was kind of an interesting thing. You think about that, that was back in 1968. Here we are in 2023, so many years later. And you know, you think about how much has changed since then. But with the introduction of longer range EVs, Tesla Roadster came out in 2008, and then when the Model S came out in 2012, a team from Tesla actually ran the race, and they did the coast to coast, just not so much as a race, but just they had built out the network across the country, and so you had a system. Look at this thing here, wow, beautiful. Anyone looking for a beautiful car here? I'll put the phone number up there. Please contact the owner of this car. I don't really know what it is. Quincy.
It's a Citroën, French car.
It's a Citroën. Wow. What year is that car?
It doesn't matter because it came out in '34 and they made the exact same model until 1957.
Oh, is that right?
Years, yeah, they didn't change models every year.
So 1934 to 1957. All right, well, listen, folks, if anyone's interested in buying this car, this is a French car, a Citroën. There's your phone number. Give this gentleman, is this your car, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, look, there's the proud owner right there. He'll cut a deal with you. Give him a call. So anyway, oh, look at this pulling in right here. Now we're starting to get into it. All right. So as time went on, there were a lot more attempts at the EV Cannonball Run record. And this is where, to me, things get super interesting. The introduction of, like we mentioned, the network itself for Tesla going across the country changed a lot of different things. And then in October of 2015, you had a team of Dina Mastracci and also Reese. They were joined by Alex Roy, and they beat Mastracci and Reese's prior record of 58 hours and 48 minutes from LA to New York City. And they ran a time of 57 hours and 48 minutes. And again, that was back in 2015, not that long ago when you think about it, just 8 years ago. And then since then, you've got the cars are starting to pour in here, folks. And then since then, in August of 2016, the LA to New York City record was again broken by, once again, Alex Roy and Right Hook CEO Warren Ainer. and Street Wars founder Frank Aliquo, who completed the run in 55 hours flat in a Tesla, a 2016 Model S 90D. And GPS logs were recorded by US Fleet Tracking, and the data was shared with the drive. So, you know, a lot of this, you really want to be able to prove your time and make sure that if you really run this race, that you're running it as quickly as you say you are. In 2017, a very early production Model 3 was once again run by none other than Alex Roy, and they beat the record. I guess Dan Zarilla and Alex, they broke the record eastbound California electric Cannonball Run record, driving 2,860 miles, and from the Portofino to the Red Ball Garage, which to me, I don't know, to me the real run is Red Ball going over to toward the Portofino, just because that's kind of you know, that was the first one in '71. That's the traditional Cannonball Run record, but yeah, that was the Model 3 was broken and they brought that time down to 50 hours and 16 minutes. And then in the summer of 2019, that's when Kyle and Matthew Davis, they actually took Kyle's rear-wheel drive Model 3, and they ran the Cannonball in it was a black rear-wheel drive Model 3, and they broke the record. Actually, the record had just been beaten a few weeks ago, a few weeks prior to that, by what is now a friend of his, Lars. But basically, he did it in 45 hours and a few, I can't remember exactly what the time was, but and then in 2020, Kyle, Drew Peterson, the CEO of Martian Wheels, and also Kyle's buddy Timon Schreier, they beat the record again in a Porsche Taycan. This was a 4S. This was kind of the old man spec. I'll put in some of the pictures here of that particular run. But they took the record down to 44 hours and 26 seconds. And I remember helping them on this. It was in the wintertime. And when they were going through Pennsylvania, it got a little dicey out there, but they had to tiptoe through it. But they managed to beat the record of the Porsche Taycan. And then in 2021, the record was broken by Ryan Levinson, from many of you who watch this channel and know EVs, from the Kilowatts. Ryan and his buddy Will Wood, they had a lowered Model S. Actually, they lowered the EV record in a Model S down to 42 hours and 52 minutes. So they knocked off quite a bit of time. And that is the car currently that holds the EV record. And Kyle took my Lucid Air just most recently over and tried the record again, but this time not on the Tesla network, but on the CCS network. And actually, Alyssa ran in front of Kyle in a Polestar 1, which actually managed to set the plug-in hybrid record. I didn't know there was a plug-in hybrid record. I don't think they did either, but the strategy was that they would use that as kind of the buffer car. And yeah, so that Alyssa did it in 45 hours and 38 minutes in the Polestar 1. But Kyle, he was unable to beat the record that Ryan had set just because of the network, which is something that is a concern of all of ours. And it took 45 hours and 38 minutes. And so he was off by over an hour. It took him over an hour longer in the Lucid Air, which is, there's no excuse for that, because the Lucid Air not only has super amazing range, but it also has the ability to charge quickly. So, you know, this whole state of affairs that we have going on right now. By the way, I don't know if this cleaner's truck is part of the event here, but what a piece that is. So anyway, the whole concept of of the challenge of the electric network, and the fact that a lot of these companies now are starting to actually team up with Tesla, I think is a really good thing, because there's no way that Lucid Air should not have been able to beat beat that record from in the Model S. So in any event, that's really it. This is like a not a huge show today, but it's a good one, and it's right here in my backyard. You gotta love the fact that you got this America pickup truck over here. I'm looking for EVs, guys. I really am. I just don't see any. So my Model 3 is parked over in the lot over there. Maybe I should bring it over here. But look, car people are car people. I don't care who you are. Thanks again for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye.